welcome to the fourth episode of our Liederspiel. It's actually already the last of our first series, so we thought we would go back to the beginning. And what you just heard was a historic performance, our very first playing together, and we picked a song at that time which appealed to both of us. It's a setting by Lessing, by Haydn, of a Lessing poem praising Faulheit, laziness.
So you're looking at me as if I embody this concept.
No, it's just because we discussed it so much. What in this whole area of vice, sloth, up to the noble concept of mirs is appropriate for this. So there is a whole word cluster in German, Muße, Müßiggang, and it's something that ennobles but also slows down. And I think Lessing captures it perfectly in his poetry, and Haydn captures the wit of Lessing's setting in his music. So we'll go through it line by line. And for the first time, we have attempted not a translation foreignizing, but trying to capture the singable nature of the song about the inability to sing. Lob der Faulheit, in praise of laziness. Faulheit, endlich muss ich dir auch ein kleines Loblied bringen.
Laziness, at last I must spin a little song of praise.
And this first concept, Faulheit, is embodied really in the music. Faulheit, endlich muss ich dir auch ein kleines Loblied bringen. So Lessing uses only long syllables, and Haydn sets them heavily with a slur down in the music, and I will talk about that in a moment. But addressing Faulheit as a muse, as you would normally start an epic poem like the Odyssey, that starts with addressing the muse to sing the song about the man Odysseus who has been tried heavily. Andra moi enne pemusa polytropon hos malla polla planchte epetroe, and so on. But the irony, of course, is that if you have laziness as your muse, then what she inspires you to do is to do nothing. And that's what happens in the next two lines. If you saw it in print, you would see it's full of dashes. I'll speak the dashes and Anna will speak the English dashes. O, wie sauer wird es mir, dich nach Würden zu besingen.
Oh, how strenuous it's for me to sing praises in your honor. And then it returns for the last two lines to regular rhythm, marching along in regular trochaic meter. Doch ich will mein Bestes tun, nach der Arbeit ist gut ruhn. Yet I'll give it my best shot. After work, it's good to rot.
And then the second verse takes up this high emphasis of the first verse. And while Faulheit was falling down, Faulheit, now ironically it's Höchstes, so highest is going actually down into the cellar. But it starts like a proper encomium, a praise of
a high prince would start with a superlative. Höchstes Gut, wer dich nur hat, dessen ungestörtes Leben.
Highest good, possessing you means to lead a carefree life.
And what isn't clear in the English translation is that it's a sentence that doesn't have a end. It doesn't have a full stop. It ends with, again, the dashes coming on for the next two lines because the encomium is stifled in the bud. No, that's a mixed metaphor. So, how do you stopped in its buds? No.
Stopped in its tracks?
Tracks.
I'm not very good with English proverbs.
Yeah, but it's getting down from a very high rhetorical level to yawning. Ach, ich, gähn, ich, werde matt. Nun so magst du mirs vergeben.
Oh, I yawn, this wears me out. Well, so may you please forgive me.
Dass ich dich nicht singen kann, du verhinderst mich ja dran.
For not finishing your song, since you've stopped me all along.
So it's turning back to where it started, to Faulheit, and accusing her of stopping the poet in his tracks. The poet actually, Lessing, who later became the famous philosophical writer, librarian at Wolfenbüttel, and not at all lazy, wrote it when he was just 22 years old and a student in Wittenberg, the city where Luther worked and which became the kind of epitome of Protestant work ethic. So it's ironic writing it as a student who should be studious, praising laziness. So how do you think Haydn took the humor up?
Well, the first thing that probably has to be said is congratulations to Haydn for finishing this song, because there are many sort of stopping points on the way, and it's quite remarkable how he manages to maintain interest with very little material. The first thing, I suppose, apart from that very poor joke, is to mention that he does imitate more broadly the style of a hymn, or Loblied, perhaps, if that's how you translate it. Hymn of praise, song of praise, with this chordal pattern. Now, I'm gonna probably annoy you by... I mean, it just carries, as you might say, the idea, so that was Bach.
Yeah.
So that has this idea
Haupt voll Blut und Wunden.
of this sort of Protestant ethic, work ethic, but
which is actually an address, a Salve Caput Salutare.
or Haupt.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is that he actually he sort of ironizes this chordal pattern to such an extent that the chords themselves are laboured, and it feels as though, to me, Haydn is really just thrashing this out because he has to. It's not the same sort of fluency as the Bach, obviously, and that's not because Haydn couldn't do it. I think it's just that Haydn chose to stifle the progression. What is also interesting, I found when looking at this, is the fact that Haydn places these really winding chromatic bits, both upwards and downwards, as if to suggest that he couldn't care less about the direction in which the music is going, and he just sort of arrives at the next phrase. So an example might be, Henrico, or maybe we should do this, from Faulheit up until mir, with this little winding passage. Pay attention to this...
like sliding down a string,
and then eventually he arrives at or. You know, it's such lazy music. Okay,
Faulheit, endlich muss ich gehen, auch ein kleines Loblied bringen.
as we see, it is really, it just sort of haphazardly arrives in the next phrase. What's also interesting is that Haydn seems to lose interest within phrase, so not between the phrases and the chromatic winding passages, but also within the phrase. And this occurs at doch, ich will mein Bestes tun, or yet I'll give it my best shot. In fact, he tries to give it his best shot, but fails because he modulates to B flat major, and I'm convinced it is a modulation halfway through. So if you just go from doch, and we'll do it from
Doch, ich will mein Bestes tun. Nach der Arbeit ist gut ruhn.
So actually, the progression from what is a D minor first inversion to B flat major is a harmonic progression. He's not actually moving away from it. He's just using the D as a pivot note. But the way that it's structured, i.e. makes it seem as though he's just moved into this other world, and this other world is still contained within the bounds of the song. So I think that's all I have to say.
Yeah. Just one footnote, because when singing it again, I thought you were right when we discussed the sauer.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Oh, half right. Not quite. But so Anat thought sau, L were actually two words, because there's the dash in between, which signals this yawning. And I think the sau is a play with a word for a pig.
Yeah.
It's a kind of snorting noise. What do pigs do?
They grunt. Don't
Right,
they?
yeah. So sau it is a kind of grunting noise that is made. And so by splitting up the words, we translated sauer as strenuous.
How would we translate it? Pig.
Yeah,
pig.
yeah.
Oh, how pig it's for me.
Yeah.
I think that works.
Yeah, good. All right, should we sing it?
Definitely.
Faulheit, endlich muss ich dir auch ein kleines Loblied bringen. Oh, wie sauer wird es mir, dich nach Würden, dich nach Würden zu besingen. Doch ich will mein Bestes tun. Nach der Arbeit ist gut ruhn. Höchstes Gut werde ich nur Haut des